Okay guys, we're going to continue with physical and chemical properties. Number one, what is a physical property? A physical property is just a property of matter. And I'll give you some examples in a minute, that does not involve a chemical change. So in other words, it's a property such as color, shape, boiling point is a physical property, boiling point. Okay, those are some examples. And then what is a chemical property? Well, it's a property of matter that does involve a chemical change. Property of matter. You could say that, no, we'll just keep it involves a chemical change. And some examples of that would be rust. If something rusts, it changed chemically, okay? Number three, and we're going to go over some more examples of those in a minute. Number three, fill in the following chart with the properties of solids, liquids, and gases. All right, this has been a while since we've discussed this, but hopefully this will jog your memory. All right, so when we have a solid, it does not change shape, right? An ice cube is an ice cube until it begins to melt. As long as it's freezing, it stays solid, it doesn't change. So we say that the shape is fixed, meaning it does not change, okay? We'll just stick with solids here. We're gonna go all the way down. The volume for a solid is also fixed, meaning if you take that ice cube that's solid and you put it into a glass jar, the ice does not expand to fill up the whole glass jar. Okay, so the volume that that ice cube takes up is fixed. It doesn't change, okay? The space between the particles for a solid is close. And we'll discuss the energy in a minute. So those are closely packed. Closely packed. Tightly packed, something like that. And the energy, the movement, we said they vibrate. They vibrate. They stay in one place, but they just kind of vibrate. All right? Liquids, the shape is not fixed. All right? So it can change. Not fixed. And that means that if you fill up a glass jar with water, it's going to take the shape of the container. If you pour the water out onto the floor, it changes shape, right? So it is not fixed, it can change. The volume, however, of water is fixed, okay? So what that means is if you fill up a jar halfway full of water, that water is not going to expand to fill out the whole container, okay? It just fills up half the container. So we say that the volume of a liquid is fixed, okay? The space between the particles is, they're not as closely packed, so we would say that they are spreading apart. And the energy, they're starting to, we'll just say they slide, the particles slide past one another. So you're getting more kinetic energy, slide past one another. All right. For gases, the shape of a gas is not fixed. Okay. They can change shape, not fixed. The volume is also not fixed. So if you put a gas into a container, that gas is going to spread out to fill up the whole container. Even if you only put half of the container full of gas, it's going to spread out. The particles are going to spread out, which leads to the next one, the space between the particles. They are spread, they're far apart. And the energy, lots of kinetic energy. And the example that we used on this a long time ago was the rock concert. Remember, we said that at the beginning of a rock concert, people are just kind of standing there, not really doing much, not much energy going on in the rock concert. Then as the band begins to play, the energy starts to pick up, and then when you're in the middle of the concert, everybody's pretty energetic, everybody's moving around dancing, bouncing off each other like the mosh pit. Remember that example. Okay, number 4, identify the following as a physical property or a chemical property. The color blue would be a physical property. Density is also a physical property. Flammability is going to be a chemical property. Reacting with air is also a chemical property. If you see the word reacts, that's going to give you a clue that it's chemical. Okay, flammability is basically, the word reacts is sort of built into that. Okay, it's a reaction, flammability. The melting point is a physical property of a substance. Reacting with water, there's the word react, that's a chemical property. The hardness of something, how hard it is, that's a physical property. The boiling point is a physical property. Malleable, do y'all remember what the word malleable means? That means that you can squish it, sort of. Okay, so that would be a physical property. Reacts with acid, chemical. Combustible, which is basically the same thing as flammable, that is going to be a chemical property. And if it tastes sour, that is physical. So anything that involves the senses, if it's something you can see like the color, or touch, such as how hard it is, or taste, those are all going to be physical. Anything that you can do with your senses. Okay? Reacting with something is going to be a chemical property.